Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you to the SalemDems for having me. This was another, like Sheriff Coppinger, we had to reschedule this a few times to make sure that we could meet this way. This is the first time I've ever run for office, and the demands are many. I tell people I have a 60 to 70 hour law practice for the last 20 years, and now I've added a 60 to 70 hour campaign on top of that. So I appreciate your patience, and I thank you for having me tonight. Just quickly about my background, a lot of you probably already know, but I'll give you the history anyway. I was born and raised in Lynn, Massachusetts. I went to school there until high school, went to St. John's Prep after that, graduated, went to Providence College, and then straight to Suffolk Law School. Out of Suffolk Law School, I had the good benefit of having, while I was working in Suffolk Law School, I got hired by a former prosecutor, Attorney Casimir Lapata. He took me on when I became a lawyer, but I learned a great deal even before that. I started my own business in both working in tandem with him and working on my own. I became a bar advocate, accepting appointments in the Lynn District Court exclusively, working for indigent defendants there at a much lower pay rate, representing the voiceless, people in society who have been passed over and forgotten in many senses, but it's been an extremely rewarding part of my career, and not one that I was not willing to give up despite my financial success. Otherwise, I have currently now a successful law practice with my partner, Attorney Helene Morris, and I was asked at a forum as recent as yesterday about whether the DA's compensation is sufficient. And it is, but I am going to be sacrificing quite a bit by giving up my law practice. Right now, for example, I represent a client who was killed in an industrial accident in Gloucester. That's a multi-million-dollar litigation. I'm also a civil litigator in terms of my practice, in addition to my wealth of criminal defense experience. I am the only practicing attorney in this race. I'm the only one that's in the courts on a regular basis. I'm the only one with recent and relevant experience. And why is that important? Why does it matter? Well, if you look historically, first of all, if you look at the people that have filled this position, not just in our county, but across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we're all practicing attorneys. They all have some level of practice experience in the court system. And that matters. And the reason it matters is because it teaches you, not only does it give you the familiarity of dealing with the people that would work under you as assistant district attorneys and knowing the job. And I've heard a lot of nonsense about, oh, well, you've never tried a prosecutorial case. Anyone that says that is simply ignorant. You have to prepare every defense case as though it's a prosecution case. You have to see every case from both sides. To suggest that because I hadn't prosecuted a case that has some merit to it is ridiculous. We're both dealing with the same facts and evidence, and that's what my job is. And that's what the district attorney's job is to take the facts and evidence, to evaluate it, and make a determination as to how we best get to justice collaboratively or through the process of a trial. So why is it important that you have this experience above and beyond knowing the people that you would supervise, not just personally, but being able to evaluate them in terms of their ability to do the job? The number one reason that it's important is because you get to observe, not only from practicing in Essex, but in other counties, what works and what is not working in the system. Right now in Essex County, our system in terms of the DA's office is frankly just broken in one very, very important respect. Right now in Essex County, we are filing what are called 58A dangerousness hearings, motions to have people held without bail and detained for up to 120 days at an alarming rate, more than twice that of the next closest county. The best example is we're filing more of these motions in Lawrence than some other counties are filing in total. That's not making us safer. All it's doing is leading to the social injustice that is reflected in the fact that we have a largely disproportionate number of people of color in jail. We have a largely disproportionate number of people of Latina background in jail, of heritage in jail. And there is a direct correlation. I've been working with people from the DREAM Network, and my office, when I'm elected, will be very transparent in that regard. We will start to keep data in regard to these statistics. And I know there are people, I know that I'm talking to people in Salem, and I know a lot of you like Paul Tucker. What I would say to you is, even if I can't convince you to vote for me, go to him if you believe in him and have him take a hard look at the real data. This is too important for anybody to overlook this and to not have a plan to address this problem. And I know how to address it because I'm in the courts and I see this being done every day. I want to give you an example, a real life example of me being in court and watching this happen to somebody, okay? But a few weeks back, I represented a young man just in his 20s, and he's of Haitian descent. And the case involved a factual scenario where he was accused of a road rage type incident. He was coming down the Linway, and a white couple had called the police and said that he had pulled a gun after a road rage after they were jockeying in traffic. So the state police were involved because it was on the Linway. So they got the description of the plate and they tracked him down. And they said, we want you to come into the barracks and give us a statement as to what happened in this incident. My client went to the barracks. He gave a full statement without a lawyer. He gave complete information and discussed this entirely with the authorities, with the state police, and was released because what he told them was that all he did was make an obscene gesture with his middle finger to this couple. Now, mind you, only one of the two people in the car were able to give any kind of an identification other than the plate number of my client. So keep in mind, my client's been released by the state police after he was called, after he was told to come down to the police station, the state police barracks, and give a full statement. He's been released. 3 or 4 days go by. The state police pull him over again. They interact with him. They say that it was in regard to some minor traffic infraction. They talk to him. They have a full conversation with him. And then they go in and they search his car improperly. And they say they find a firearm. His firearm was licensed and duly licensed to him. He had a permit, a license to carry the firearm. This is days after the incident, okay? They don't arrest him. They don't take him in custody. They don't do anything to him. He is, again, released, let go, okay? A couple days later, and let me tell you how you can come to court, okay? So there's several ways that you can come to court. You can obviously be arrested and brought to court immediately. You can be summoned to court if it's a lesser offense outside the presence of the police. They send you a letter and they say, show up to court. Or the third way they can come to court is they can put out what's called a straight warrant for your arrest. After this fact, after he's dealt with the state police twice, after the 2 state police stations talk to each other, they put out a straight warrant for this young man who has no prior record, who's already talked to them twice. And they put out a straight warrant for him. They go to his house and they haul him in and they arrest him and they bring him into the Lynn District Court. And what do you think? Because there's an allegation of a firearm, the Lynn District Attorney's office is told and mandated to do in that instance. They file a motion to hold a young man who's cooperated with the police and who has told them the story that all he did was make an obscene gesture, and the state police released him twice. They asked the court to hold him without bail as someone that was dangerous. How is he dangerous? The state police had determined twice that he was not dangerous, okay? This is happening every day. I've told John Blodgett that this is happening every day, that you're bringing in people to have them held, even when they show up in the audience for court. It is wrong. It is contributing to the social justice nightmare that exists in Essex County, where we have a hugely disproportionate number of people of color and Latino heritage locked up in jail. This is not right. This is not okay. This is something that I will change day one. And the only way you really know about this is to have this human interaction and experience. And by the way, Judge McNeil agreed with me. He was not, in fact, dangerous, and she released him. But what if it was a different judge? What if it was a different set of facts? What if the lawyer didn't know the things that I know and was inexperienced and wasn't able to argue effectively for this young man? We could have taken this young man, a Haitian American, and locked him up and held him without bail at 20, 21 years old. And all he says that he did was use an obscene gesture. And the best they had on the prosecution side was to say that one out of the two people might be able to identify him as the suspect, as the perpetrator of the alleged offense. This is just wrong. As I said, whoever you support, this needs to change. The only way to bring change to this office is to do what I do, to do what John Blodgett did, to do what Kevin Burke did, to do what virtually every other lawyer that's become district attorney has done. And that is to practice law, to be there every day, to see what needs to be fixed, to see how to change the injustice. If you don't have any new ideas, you shouldn't be running in this race. If you don't have a platform to make the changes necessary to be made, you shouldn't be running in this race. You shouldn't run for district attorney. My motivations are not financial. I'm not so sure about my opponent. The other part of my platform would be, as some of you know, the other part of my practice is that my partner is a super lawyer in immigration. What I'm hearing throughout the county is that the immigration matters, particularly with regard to victim visas, U visas, are not being processed effectively. And one of the things we'll do day one as well is I'll bring my partner, attorney Helene Morris. We'll create an immigration division to make sure that these victims are treated fairly, to make sure that their applications are processed quickly, and to make sure that we pick up the slack from where the current administration has dropped the ball. Thirdly, I will upgrade the IT systems within the Essex County system right away. That's got to be a budget line item right out of the gate. Give you an example. The example that I give is I tell people a month or so ago, I went to Malden, Middlesex County, and I was given information and a secure password by the DA in the session on my first appearance within 10 minutes of handing them my card with my email address on it. That would never, ever happen in Essex. I can tell you that my opponent had an issue with the same problem right before he left office. He was chief of police for 5 years. I don't know if you're all familiar with this, but the Pomeroy report goes into great detail about how he had shoddy record keeping, was not keeping track of his subordinates at the time. Administratively, he said the other day in the forum that he and Mayor Driscoll combined to ask for the report. That was simply false. That's not true. It was Mayor Driscoll doing oversight of him after he improperly already had disciplined these individuals who happened to be his friends, and one of the persons happened to be his law school classmate. So in terms of administration and fixing the IT, I've run a law practice for 24 years and we're up to date. I have the personnel to be able to come in and do that. I also just recently got an information security certificate. Some people from Boston University, some people have a midlife crisis where they buy cars and things like that. I went back and continued with my education. Finally, one of the most important things you can do as a district attorney is find creative ways. And in fact, one of the greatest challenges for every district attorney's office is to maintain the talent. These talented men and women that serve the Commonwealth as assistant district attorneys are woefully underpaid when compared to the private sector. I was walking out of Salem. I had a successful day in Salem District Court. And I happened to pass by an old friend of mine who's a Superior Court ADA. And she was joking and she said to me, you better win because I just passed up a 6-figure offer in a civil firm. So hopefully she's waiting for me. But the sad truth of this is that they are underpaid and underappreciated and overworked. And one of the things we need to do, particularly in the district court, is give them back some discretion to manage their cases. Right now, the main office of the district attorneys has a death grip on them, and they have to virtually ask for permission to do just about everything. That's not right. And it doesn't make for a good way to evaluate the people that work under you. This isn't just about making them happy. It's about me having the ability to watch what they do and how they make decisions and evaluate them from the perspective of saying, it's not wins and losses. It's not notches of convictions on the belt. It's, why did you do this? What was your thought process of why you made the decision either to prosecute, not prosecute? To file this motion or not file this motion. And again, you only know that if you've worked in that system, you know what's supposed to be done, and you're able to evaluate whether they did the right thing or not. So I would say that their job fulfillment will go up exponentially in my administration, if elected. Right now, I look at this as a simple tagline of my opponent being the most expensive and least experienced candidate in this race. I understand that he's a good guy, but this is not a good guy contest. This is a question of who is best suited, who has the most experience, the most recent relevant experience to lead this office. I'd ask humbly for your vote on September the 6th, and I'd ask you to go to my website, o'sheaforda.com. I ask you to take a look at all the things that I've laid out. I have solutions to the problem because, first of all, I'm able to identify the problems that are in the office. And secondly, I've worked around them. I know the case law. This is not a situation where I've also heard, oh, well, we're making the laws in the legislature. The laws from the legislature are well-intended, but they're well-intended theories until they're put through the crucible that is the court system. The constitutional crucible of the court system makes the ultimate decision on whether those laws are upheld, struck down, altered, changed, you name it. Again, my name is Attorney James O'Shea. I humbly ask for your vote on September the 6th, and I thank you very much for your time. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. That was great. I think we do have a couple minutes for questions. So if anybody has any questions, I can remove the spotlight. Okay. Shay, shoot. Shay, you're muted, but you can take it away whenever.
Yes, if no one has any questions, since I asked the other one earlier, I can ask, and I wanted to ask Mr. Kevin about that, but I think, you know, I can ask you, sir, about that question. Do you know if, I know with Floyd that was taken away and more time was afforded to minorities and by having more voices and so on. And today I was talking to some families, and the question is questioning things that are still happening and so on. You know, not talking about law enforcement. We know the legislature has done a lot of work regarding that after Floyd was murdered. But any idea, that could be a question for the two of you, that if people working under the state or with the state are under, what's the word, are under immunity, any idea? Is there a law that says so? Not talking about law enforcement at all, because we know the legislature has done a lot of work regarding that after Floyd. But anyone working under the state, are they under immunity? Is there a law? Do you know?
There is protection for what's called qualified immunity within the police department. And I am a supporter of qualified immunity. And the reasons are simple. I think that to take away qualified immunity will be more damaging to social justice causes than many other facets. I'm also a pragmatist. George Floyd, for example, his family recovered $27 million from the deep pocket. When you're a civil litigant, what you look for are the people that can pay the bill. So there are too many loopholes for suing individuals where they can simply declare bankruptcy or have protections on their assets. So it's a fruitless venture. But the social justice component of qualified immunity is what really drives me to support it. And that is this: if you have no qualified immunity, the talent pool that you're going to be drawing from to hire these police officers is going to plummet. You're already, just the threat of taking away qualified immunity has reduced the number of applications for police jobs already. So you're going to end up, sadly, sort of biting yourself by doing that. You're going to take away the better people that you want in those jobs, and you're going to have more people like the people who are abusers. The other thing I'd say about that is this: that Derek Chauvin whatever he was, whether he was a police officer, a firefighter, an attorney, a garbage man, he had that in him. There are evil people in the world. He was a murderer. He was tried as a murderer and prosecuted as a murderer, justifiably so. But in any job, he had that in him. And there are people, and I'm not talking about bad apples. He's not just a bad apple. The reason my job exists and the reason that I want to be district attorney and that district attorneys exist because we have to punish people like that. There are evil people in the world. The law is set up to punish people with evil intentions. And that's exactly what my administration will do. We'll punish the people with evil intentions, and we'll find rehabilitation for the people that are suffering from mental illness or addiction or some other disease. But that's my take on qualified immunity. It does exist. Again, I list all of these things on my website. I answer all the most difficult questions, or at least I tried to. I'm more than happy to answer the rest of the questions. But I am obviously, based on where I come from, what my background is, I am a firm proponent of social justice, and I support qualified immunity because I think we'll end up with a lot more social injustice if we take it away.